Our next speaker is Elizabeth, one of the granddaughters.
Well, Grandpa's probably laughing at the irony of this whole situation. It was just a week ago yesterday, I was telling him how nervous I was about my public speaking class this semester. So, his response took a total of 2 seconds. What? You nervous about speaking in front of people? Do you remember when we were in Canada and we were on a tour bus and you took a microphone away from the tour guide? You talked to everyone for a whole 5 minutes. Of course, I blocked this memory a long time ago, despite Grandma and Grandpa's efforts to keep reminding me of it. Grandpa reassured me that I'd do fine in my speech class, along with all of my other classes this semester. During that same conversation, Grandpa said he was amazed at how many different things I was learning. Even though we both studied psychology, he didn't realize that Homeland Security was an entire different field of study. He was always fascinated by my stories of criminals and where I thought they went wrong. Grandpa loved hearing stories from all the grandchildren, so we all have many great memories with them. Stacy's fondest memory was the first time Grandpa met his great-grandson, Cameron. It was Cameron's very first Christmas, and he was only 2 months old. Brittany recalls the last trip the family took to Cape Cod. The family usually spends most of their time at the ponds instead of the ocean, since the ponds are a lot warmer and they don't have the rough waters. Well, one day, the whole family decided to go to the ocean. It was really cold, so everybody was sitting on the beach in their sweaters. Grandpa and Brittany decided to go into the water. Needless to say, they got stuck in the water. So, despite Grandpa's efforts to get out, the waves kept him in the water. When they finally made it out, Brittany made it out with a single scratch. Grandpa was covered in cuts. He told Brittany without hesitation, "Remind me to never go in there again." Casey remembers that Grandpa always loved it when she talked about school, especially when she talked about how much she liked reading. Grandpa also loved hearing about how Casey loved to play her clarinet. Joey recalls a time that he and Grandpa went golfing at Warriors Path State Park in Kingsport. Grandpa happened to let Joey drive the golf cart. Needless to say, Grandpa ended up running after the golf cart. Kaylin remembers the first time she went skiing. Grandpa was really supportive of Kaylin every time she fell. There was one time Kaylin fell on her butt and she quickly said, "Ow." Grandpa responded with, "You are the first person that said falling on your butt while skiing hurt. Your butt's made of slush. It shouldn't hurt to fall on it in the snow." We all have these great memories of Grandpa that we will never forget. One of Grandpa's greatest passions was traveling. Needless to say, he quickly made it one of my passions too by taking me on my first trip out of the country to Canada. We went to the famous Calgary Stampede and traveled down to visit their friends in Montana. A couple years later, we all traveled to France. I was able to meet their friend Alex, which, for those of you that don't know, is an experience in itself. And I also met the rest of Alex's family. We traveled all across France, and I got an experience that most 10-year-olds could never dream about. Traveling with Grandma and Grandpa inspired me to travel on my own. This past summer, when I went to China, Grandpa called me at least once a week. Upon returning to the States, Grandpa demanded that I tell him every detail and show him every single picture. There were over 800 of them. Now, everyone that knew my grandpa knew that there were 3 things in his life he loved above all else. First and foremost, he loved his family. And secondly, came his friends. And finally, in a very close third, came the New York Yankees. I remember when Grandpa took me to my first Yankees game. It was the Yankees versus the Blue Jays. It was a scoreless game all the way into the bottom of the 9th inning. With 2 outs, Ruben Sierra stepped up to play. 3 balls and 2 strikes were pitched, and finally on that 6th pitch, Sierra hit it out of the park. Home run. Grandpa began to cheer like I'd never heard him cheer before. His enthusiasm was contagious. After attending this game, I acquired the same love that Grandpa had, not only for the Yankees, but for baseball in general. It was a couple months ago that I called Grandpa up and told him he was going to be proud of me. His response was the same as it always was. "I'm always proud of you." I quickly reassured him he was going to be really proud of me this time. I told him that the night before my terrorism class about 70 people, most of them being men, my teacher asked, "What does the Dominican Republic contribute to the United States?" My answer, of course, was the baseball players. So, to the class is surprised, myself included, I was actually right. My teacher asked how in the world I knew the answer, so I started explaining that Rivera and Cano are from the Dominican Republic, and every single baseball team has players just like them. Everyone in my class was astonished. After finishing my story, Greco began to chuckle and said he definitely was really proud of me. So today I'd like to share with you not only one of Grandpa's greatest pastimes, but also one of his favorite songs.
Your attention please, ladies and gentlemen. Now batting for the Yankees, number 51, Bernie Williams. Number 51.